The Department of Public Health and Human Services is pleased to bring you Aging Horizons. Medicare, Medicaid, Social Security, fraud, legal issues, veterans benefits, and caregiving. Aging Horizons is a program dedicated to inform and prepare Montanans on these timely issues, making a difference to you and your loved ones. Here now is today's program host.
Hi everyone. Today on Aging Horizons we're going to be talking about something so important, and that's Alzheimer's disease. You've heard about it, you might even be uninformed and afraid about it, and we want to bring you some good information today, and we're going to talk about some signs and some warning symptoms that might signal to you that you need some assistance. Please stay with us, we have a lot of information.
Montana is getting back to life after COVID-19. The COVID vaccine is the best way to keep us on track. The vaccine's been rigorously tested. It's proven to be safe and effective. And Montana doctors and nurses stand behind the vaccine because it works and it will save lives. The COVID-19 vaccine is the best way to protect yourself, your loved ones, and your community. Sign up today to get your free COVID-19 vaccine. Visit covidvaccine.mt.gov.
This is Bill. He just received his new Medicare card and is following some simple rules to protect himself from fraud. He knows to never give out his Medicare, Social Security, or bank number over the phone. And this is Nancy. She knows that to detect any problems, she always reads her Medicare summary notice or Medicare Advantage EOB to make sure the billing is correct. Both Bill and Nancy know that anything suspicious can be reported to Montana SMP at 1-800-551-3191.
Good care is your right. In Montana, there's over 11,000 beds in nursing homes and assisted living facilities. If you or a family member needs assistance or help in obtaining information about care issues and placement options, call 1-800-332-2272. If you or a family member need information about Montana's long-term care resident rights, or if you need help solving a problem or a complaint about a nursing home or an assisted living facility, call us at 800-332-2272.
Is that Robert Knievel? Captain Lewis, Captain Clark, I'm officially Evel Knievel now. I'm getting my Montana Real ID.
Did you make an appointment at mtrealid.gov?
Yes, sir.
Smile.
I brought my non-laminated Social Security card, 2 documents proving my current residential address, and my certified birth certificate.
Approved.
Go to mtrealid.gov.
Now I can fly. It's that easy.
Hello everyone and welcome to Aging Horizons, brought to you by the Department of Public Health and Human Services. I'm your host, Kimmy Everman, and today we're going to be talking about Alzheimer's. Some of our favorite guests are from the Alzheimer's Association, the Montana chapter, and they bring such hope and such great information every time they appear on our show that we're so grateful to have them. Today we have with us Susan Gobbs, and Susan is a community educator. She's a board member for the Alzheimer's Association. She's a great attorney and does all kinds of great legal clinics for our legal service development, and just a great guest. Thanks for being with us today.
No problem, Kimmy.
So let's just talk a little bit about sort of typical age-related things, memory, thinking, behavior changes, versus some of those signs. Because you mentioned something to me off camera which really struck a chord, which is what's normal aging, or what should I be concerned about? And I think those are some of the first footsteps we can take to identifying the help we need.
Okay. Well, seniors, of which I am one now, typically have mild cognitive decline. That means that we're not always at the top of our game like we were when we were in our 30s and 40s. But it's very important to realize that that is part of normal aging versus the things we see with Alzheimer's and another dementia. And so I like to say that you have normal mild cognitive decline, and then you have Alzheimer's, which is that on steroids. So I'm going to run through what we consider these warning signs that you should be looking at. So everybody forgets things. Where did I put my keys? if that's an occasional thing and you can find your keys and everything's all right, that's not a sign of dementia. When you have memory loss that's so acute that it disrupts daily life, you can't remember stuff, and it's a constant issue with your life. Can't remember the doctor appointments, can't remember where we put our keys, etc. That's something to be concerned about. When people start to have issues with dementia, they have challenges in planning or solving problems. So in other words, somebody who's been really good about planning a project, following a recipe, getting into an issue with a problem, being able to figure it out. Those are the kind of skills that you lose. People tend to freeze. They just don't have the ability to figure out what's going on. Difficulty in completing familiar tasks. Everybody will forget something, but if it's something you do every day and all of a sudden you can't remember how to do it, that gets to be an issue with driving. If you've driven all your life and then you get in the car and you're confused about driving, you probably shouldn't be in that car behind the driver's seat or on the driver's seat. Confusion with time and place. People, when you're retired, it's not uncommon not to know if it's Tuesday or Wednesday because you don't have the same schedule that you would have as a person in the workforce. But if you think it's fall and it's actually spring, or you're confused about what year it is, people with severe dementia will do things like say it's 1963. Well, it's not 1963, but in their head, it's 1963. You have trouble understanding visual images or spatial relationships. Now, some of us, like me, have always had trouble with spatial relationships. I'm not real good. I run into walls, and that kind of thing has to do with my eyesight. But people who've never had that issue all of a sudden start having problems with their eyesight. They have trouble gauging things. This is when it gets to be an issue when you're driving. If you can't gauge if there's enough room to get into that parking space, that could be a real problem. If you can't gauge how quick you have to put your brakes on because you're in a lane and someone's in front of you, that's, again, another problem. We all have words that we forget, and we're looking for words and they're on the tip of our tongue. Okay? But if people really stop in the middle of a conversation and they can't remember what they're saying, they can't remember the words, that's an issue. Misplacing things, the car key issue on steroids, decreased judgment or poor judgment. People who have always been really good with their money and all of a sudden they're not good with their money. People will withdraw from at the workplace and social situations because they're confused and they know they're confused, so they stop talking. And then a lot of people will have changes in mood and personality. They get depressed, they get suspicious, they get paranoid because they are confused, they know they're confused, and they don't know what's wrong.
Yeah, I think that we're talking about some very vital information for people to have so that they can be either watching it for their loved ones or for themselves. And I think you're absolutely so spot on, Susan, that you can, as we age, because I find myself feeling like, wow, I wonder if I forgot that because of old age or because of dementia. And it's so important to sort of be paying attention to that. It's not morbid, it's just good sense for your health. And you know, folks, I want to just say, first of all, that there's going to be a lot of resources that we'll give, and you'll find out how to reach out to get some information. We've got a great website, we've got a great 1-800 or a toll-free number for you, and just some more really important information that Susan's going to share with us today. So please stay with us. We don't want you to go anywhere or miss any of this really, really important stuff. Be back soon.
Every 65 seconds, someone is affected with Alzheimer's or other dementias. Many become isolated at a time when help is most needed. If you or someone you love is affected, help is available, both for people with memory loss and their caregivers. Memory loss can feel frightening, but you are not alone. Call the free 24/7 Alzheimer's Association helpline, 800-272-3900, for guidance and support.
Elder abuse is a growing problem, and it's happening right here in our Montana communities. At least 1 in 10 older adults are victims of physical or emotional abuse, financial exploitation, or neglect. To get help or report elder abuse, call your local area agency on aging or Adult Protective Services at 1-844-277-9300.
Here in Montana, we love our outdoor activities. Unfortunately, few of them are risk-free. Indeed, Montana is second in the nation per capita in head injuries that can destroy the lives of people we love. That's why you should insist your family always wear protective helmets. But you can do even more. When you fill out your vehicle registration this year, circle the Y and donate $1 to support traumatic brain injury prevention and education. Now that's using the old noggin.
I was angry and upset when the doctor told me I have diabetes. I just didn't want to deal with it, the needles and the diet restrictions. But after I started to learn about it, those feelings changed. I was at risk for a heart attack caused by high blood sugar. That got my attention. I started watching my diet and making sure I got enough exercise every day. I want to be around for my grandkids, and now that I know what to do, it seems like a small price to pay.
Ask your doctor about diabetes education or visit montana211.org.
Hi folks, welcome back to Aging Horizons. We're here talking about the early signs of possible dementia and Alzheimer's disease and trying to get some information out there for you. Today we have with us Susan Gobbs. Susan, hi, great to have you with us. And Susan, she does many things with aging services, but one thing is she's a community educator about the Alzheimer's and she is a board member for the Alzheimer's Association. So Susan, we know you have a lot of great information to share. One thing I wanted to talk about before we move on to a little bit of our next topic is what kind of support is available for individuals that may see some of these changes in their loved ones or in themselves even, because what you mentioned could be pretty scary. If you didn't know what to do or who to call, all those things you just mentioned in our last segment could be pretty scary. So where would a person reach out, or who should they reach out to?
Okay, well, we have our chapter headquarters in Montana is in Billings. We have a 24/7, 365 hotline, which is manned by trained social workers who are specifically trained in Alzheimer's in content. And that number, which I'm sure we'll get up on the screen, is 1-800-272-3900. And while they're located in Chicago, they know exactly what resources are available in Montana. There are support groups, particularly in Billings. They pre-COVID were doing a very wonderful program with the Billings Art Museum, or the Yellowstone Art Museum, rather. There are what we call memory cafes, where people can go with their loved one who is suffering from Alzheimer's or another dementia, and they get a social interaction. We have respite care here in Montana, which is funded and manned by DPHHS. They can certainly contact that if they've got a family member with Alzheimer's and they need some respite, because the vast majority of people with Alzheimer's in Montana are being cared for by their family members. Okay. Then we have a website. It's a very robust website. If you can get onto a computer, it's alz.org, full of videos and training materials and tips and all the things that would be helpful to support you. And on that hotline, it's real important to know that it is, again, 24 hours a day. So if it's 3 o'clock in the morning and you can't get your spouse to go to bed no matter what you do, and you're at your wit's end, those are the people you call. They're not going to judge you. They're going to help you try to get through this situation as best you can.
Thank you, Susan. That was lovely, and very grateful to know that that is out there. Let's move on to sort of, I think, a theme, which is early detection and how important that is. Can you talk a bit about that and why early detection is so critical to beating Alzheimer's?
Well, at this point, and we have our fingers crossed, we don't have a drug yet that will reverse the signs and symptoms of Alzheimer's disease. Now, you've heard me talk a lot about Alzheimer's and other dementias. There are many, many different conditions that can cause dementia. Alzheimer's is sort of the blanket umbrella term that we use, but there's a lot of different conditions. So again, if you're starting to notice changes in your loved one, and you're concerned about it, well, I think one of the big issues is driving. If you have someone whose driving is erratic, you're scared to get in the car with them, you're scared for them to get behind the wheel, afraid they're going to have an accident. In Montana, we're fiercely independent. We don't want to give up that driver's license. We don't want to give up the freedom that comes with driving. It is easier to do so if you have a diagnosis. If your doctor says you can't drive anymore, and under Montana law, doctors can send something to the DMV about that. Okay, so that's really important. It's important to approach someone with kindness and gentleness, not accusatory, but it's also good to document. Start writing this stuff down because your loved one's going to deny it. They may not realize anything's wrong, and they're not going to be happy with you.
You know, and I think, Susan, driving, what a great issue to bring up, because that really is for adult children and for spouses of folks that are having difficulties with that driving. That we hear over and over again in our work that's one of the hardest conversations to have.
Mm-hmm. And I think it's just really important. It's just a piece of early detection, but people will know sometimes that they are confused and they don't know what it is, and they're frightened. And when people get frightened, sometimes they'll lash out. So it's really good if they can get a confirmation that they aren't going crazy, right, that there really is something going on.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right on with that. I feel so much that knowledge, it may not be what you want to know, but it's empowering and it helps you take the next step. And folks, you know, again, this is a hand up. Reach out. Don't worry about someone judging you. It's not going to happen. Reach out. We'll put the phone number up on the screen again. Go to the website and take a look at the resources and educate yourself so that you don't have to be afraid. Because remember, once you start knowing the truth about things, you can accept it, you can go forward, you can work with it. Get that diagnosis. And also stay with us because we have more to tell you about.
I was outside working on some equipment, nothing too strenuous. I started sweating and feeling out of breath.
When he felt pressure in his chest and aching in his arms, I knew we had to call 911.
First responders were there before we knew it. 38 minutes later, the doctors had restored the blood flow to my heart.
Now we know dialing 911 saved his life.
Your life is on the line.
This message sponsored by Mission Lifeline Montana.
I take care of my wife at home. When I found out training was available, I said, sign me up. It's made a huge difference.
When my husband was injured at work, it was life-altering. The classes taught me that it's okay to grieve, to ask for help, and to better cope as a caregiver.
My dad lives 4 hours away, and the Powerful Tools classes taught me that it's okay to ask for help. I highly recommend them.
To find out about this course for caregivers, go to powerfultoolsforcaregivers.org.
It's amazing the difference a little training can make.
Out here, we love our animals, from the wildlife to the livestock. Inside, it's the same. They're just like family. We keep them happy and healthy, most of the time. Secondhand smoke puts pets at risk for cancer, feline lymphoma, vomiting, increases the risk of tumors and lung cancer, even causes eye and skin disease. Secondhand smoke puts your pet's life at risk.
I think the most pleasant surprise when we turned 65 and signed up for Medicare Part B was finding out about our Welcome to Medicare preventive visit.
It was free, and it gave us the opportunity to visit with our doctors and establish a plan for our health going forward.
They reviewed our medical history, measured our height, weight, blood pressure, and counseled us on other risk factors.
To learn more about Medicare's free or low-cost preventive and wellness benefits, call your local SHIP counselor at 800-551-3191. I mentioned it's free, right?
Twice.
Hi everyone, welcome back to Aging Horizons. We're here talking about the early detection and early signs of Alzheimer's with Susan Gobbs today. Susan, again, welcome. So glad to have you here. So let's talk a bit about that. In our last segment, we talked about going to the doctor and getting a diagnosis. Let's jump off from there.
Okay. Well, in some instances, it's hard to get a diagnosis because the gold standard for a diagnosis is a neuropsych eval, perhaps with a CAT scan, so we can see if there are lesions on the brain. So a lot of people don't have access to that kind of medical care. So you go to your nurse practitioner, you go to your GP. They may be very reluctant to issue that diagnosis. They may not think that they have the qualifications, or they don't have the scans, they don't feel comfortable with that. But I think it's really important because doctors have very limited time to document what you can and bring it in. Because in early stages, people may deflect, they may use humor, they may use all sorts of tools that are still at their disposal to get the doctor to not think that this is an issue. And so I think that that's really important, that you be prepared that you may not actually get the diagnosis. The other thing that I think is really important is there are a lot of aging issues that may present as dementia that may not be. For example, we know people's cognitive issues are affected by hunger and thirst and cold and hot and medication interactions and any kind of a chronic disease such as diabetes that restricts blood flow to the brain. We also know that a large percentage of the population over about 65 have significant hearing problems. So it may not be that somebody has dementia. It may be they have a hearing loss. But if they have dementia, it could be because they have Parkinson's. And in a lot of those cases, those symptoms can be reversed. There are excellent drugs to deal with Parkinson's dementia. Obviously, if you are not doing well because you're having a medication interaction, we can change medication. So it's real important to not assume dementia where there is not dementia. But it's also equally important, or maybe more so, to acknowledge that dementia does exist, that it is a progressive disease, and that you can't wish it away. And so I think particularly for folks in rural Montana, this is a difficult situation because the resources are not necessarily there as they would be in the bigger areas. But that's where the Alzheimer's Association comes in. If nothing else, we can provide support. We have support groups. We have virtual support groups. So we can do stuff over the computer like we're doing today. We have presentations that get done. We have a lot of materials. So you don't have to feel like you have to suffer alone. There are, 20,000 people in Montana right now that have Alzheimer's or another dementia, and they're largely being cared for by their family. So you are not alone. You may feel alone, but there are a lot of people in the same boat. And I think it's just vitally important to be upfront about this and not pretend that it isn't happening. Because the more you pretend, the less help you can be to the person with the disease or to yourself if you have the disease, and the harder the journey's going to be. The journey's going to be a hard one, but it's going to be harder if you pretend you're not on it.
Right, and I think you do such a good job at explaining all the different resources that are out there for folks. Let's talk again just a little bit more about that 24/7 hotline, because you mentioned 3 o'clock in the morning and it's terrible and you need somebody to support you. Wow, what a great thing to have at your fingertips.
Right, and I think it's just really important. Again, this is a very difficult process for caregivers. And a lot of times if caregivers are spouses, they have their own medical issues as well. And there's a lot of moving pieces to this journey. And so the more you can reach out to this hotline, they can send you materials. They can give you resources that are more local. They can let you know that you're not alone. And so I think it's just really important to know that that resource is available, that even though it's in Chicago, they know what we have in Montana, and they understand how rural we are, and that it's just vitally important, again, to reach out. This is not a disease of shame. You should not be ashamed if someone in your family has dementia or you yourself are suffering from dementia. It is a medical condition, and we need to treat it as such.
You know, Susan, we just have a minute or so left. You've brought such good information to the table today, but give us some final wisdom. What do you think is most important about this whole Alzheimer's journey and sort of, as you mentioned, don't pretend?
Right. I think it's very important for people to know that in Montana, we are facing a tsunami of this. We are one of the fastest aging populations in the United States. So this is becoming more and more of an issue. They need to know that there are resources in state government. There are resources out here. We have an Alzheimer's working group in state government. We have lots of things that are there. So words of wisdom, don't deny it. Ask for help.
Susan, thank you so much for being with us today. You brought so much. I learned a ton, so we really appreciate your service to the Alzheimer's community in Montana. Thanks so much.
You're welcome.
Folks, as Susan said, there's no shame about this. There's no judgment. Reach out. We're going to run that number one more time. If you are 3 o'clock in the morning and you need somebody to support you, give them a call. For Aging Horizons, I'm Kimmy Everman. So glad that you were able to be with us today.
Special thanks to the Department of Public Health and Human Services for their continued support. Hosts on Aging Horizons are program specialists at the Montana Office on Aging. Production facilities provided by Video Express Productions. For more information about Aging Horizons, call the Department of Public Health and Human Services toll-free at 800-332-2272.